So, I once again would like to point out how weird it is that 70 years after the death of Hitler and the fall of the Nazis, that Germany seems to be poised to basically take over a good chunk of the planet through backdoor means, largely through the internet and the European Union. Let me explain, I guess. So, as has been making the rounds this morning since late last night, early morning, the European Union Parliament has passed the infamous Article 13, which is a whole slew of new laws and regulations for internet companies that want to operate in Europe to have to adhere to in order to be able to avoid being fined out of existence, which will heavily clamp down on a lot of things. In particular, threat to a lot of YouTubers is really, really hardcore copyright claims. See, channels like mine, Sticks, Hexenhammer, maybe Philip DeFranco, The Quartering, all of us who make videos where we're just kind of talking our opinions directly into a camera without showing a bunch of pictures or clips out of articles and stuff, we're probably fine. But it's all of y'all who like making montages or little mini documentaries or like showing screenshots of the stuff you're reading and talking about and leaving links to them in your description boxes. All of you are screwed because one of two things are going to happen when Article 13 is ratified. And note that while there is a lot of doom and gloom today about Article 13, it's not quite finished. It's passed the Parliament, but it still has to be ratified. And notice that they stagger these events out with several months in between them to somewhat. I mean, I'm sure they got their red tape paperwork reasons why it needs to take that time, but coincidentally, these gaps of time also allow the public fervor to die down and simmer a bit until they engage the next step in bringing this into law. And once it is in law, you have a bunch of international companies, including like the social media companies that we all use and rely on, YouTube included, but also Facebook and Twitter, and the list goes on, where they're going to be faced with an option. They can either pull out of operations in the European theater, or they can comply with what Article 13 demands of them in order to be able to continue operating in Europe. They're not likely to want to abandon the entire European market because the internet is an advertising platform. It may not have started that way, but over the course of the 90s and 2000s, as people learned to monetize their internet usage, it has attracted advertisers, and now advertising is the primary revenue stream for a lot of these major sites. Facebook wouldn't be profitable. They wouldn't be making any money off people from millions of people having free profiles there and talking with each other. They make their money through the advertising stream. YouTube. Well, YouTube still supposedly operates in the red, but in theory, it's because of advertising streams is how they pull any cash in and stuff like that. So they're not just going to want to just completely abandon advertising to all of Europe. That's a lot of money. So they're going to have to comply. And then they're going to have to come up with the decision, or are they going to segment their websites so that it operates differently for the European Union users than it does for everyone else? Or are they just going to make the entire website streamlined to just match the European Union's restrictions? It would seem cheaper and a lot easier to just streamline it so that everything is in line with the European Union's restrictions. So through that chain of events, because Germany, because of its population, geographic location, and economic strength, Germany is basically the main muscle of the European Union. Its only real rivals are France, which is probably easily the number two, and France radically shifted away in direction from Germany that might actually be able to hinder Germany's control of the European project more than anything else. Turkey seems to have a good deal amount of influence, but through other channels. And up to a point, Great Britain was an influential power within Europe, even if a lot of it was designed to like keep them for their money and their strength, but not to actually give them any real authority or say. But since the whole Brexit thing happened, it's kind of hard to, I guess, really qualify them anymore as being one of the top countries of the Union. So Germany ascended above all, which, like I said, 70 years after World War II, man, that's weird. And because they get to be the primary drive behind how Europe is trying to reshape its culture through the European Union's legal system, because the European Union's legal system is going to force the internet to do to curb certain behaviors, and because the internet is international and has influence over everyone, Germany is going to end up being suddenly one of the primary powers on this planet. And Germany has been a problem for a long time, going back to Rome and the Holy Roman Empire. Tons of pogroms over the Middle Ages. I mean, the Holocaust is not the first time that Germans decided to just go kill a bunch of Jews and gypsies for no reason. No, that was like the 6th or 7th time, actually. It was just the one that got caught on camera. I just can't help but have a bad taste in my mouth of the idea of Germany having this much influence over the entire planet. Sorry. And like I said, all these major websites, they're gonna have to end up capitulating and end up making their entire service operate along these guidelines. And so those of us living in America or Canada, Japan, wherever, are going to find ourselves and our content being subject to what the EU thinks is right or wrong, especially in regards to copyright stuff. I mean, in truth, I mean, like, it's already because of the European Union that these websites are so reactive to things like hate content. Like, people can't express negative opinions. That's a crime. That's stupid. Humans should only be judged by physically actionable actions. That's redundant. You should only get in trouble for an actual physical crime. You can say whatever you want. Human beings have the capacity to make things up, lie, bullshit. Sometimes they're not even aware that they're doing it. There's a reason why even during the Inquisition, that Don Torquemada and the Inquisitors of the Church like understood that you had to actually get a confession out of somebody, even if it was false. But without that person admitting to what they're being accused of, you can't ever really truly prove it. So you might have just been murdering somebody over nothing. These are issues that one would think had already been resolved. But see, apparently knowing about history does not prevent you from repeating history. So, a couple months it'll get ratified, and at that point it'll either be goodbye Europe, which I don't see as particularly likely, and it's going to be more so the welcome our new European internet Gestapo to tell us what's right and wrong with the world. Well, don't mind me if I take a little tobacco break right now. Ah, sweet, delicious tobacco. Mmm. Warms the cockles of my heart. Like, how far is the copyright shit? Like, if you're not even allowed to use, like, photos and still images of things to make memes, because that's, even that image is copyrightable, are they going to get to a point where we're not even allowed to talk about the things we like on the internet because it's copyrighted stuff? Are we even allowed to talk about Star Trek? Are we going to be allowed to talk about Marvel? Are we even going to be allowed to talk about Star Wars? Or are only official shows, channels, articles that actually have been approved by the copyright holders, or they're going to be the only things that are going to be allowed to address these sorts of subjects now? I had heard that someone got like their channel shut down because of a copyright strike because of them singing a Frank Sinatra song. Not playing a Frank Sinatra song without any musical accompaniment, but just singing. You can't even sing in your own voice somebody else's song. It'll recognize the lyrics. Beyond the whole thing about Germany and the EU taking over the internet, some of this is based on our copyright laws are bad. They're designed so that people who make money off of these intellectual properties, be they music or art or television shows or whatever, they're designed so that the corporate entities continue to justify making money off of it and having exclusive rights to make money off of it. But in truth, the older copyright laws from back in the day were a bit more accurate, let's say, for the human experience. Because after a certain amount of time, these things get dissolved into the public consciousness and are stopped being exclusive to the creators. That's what public domain is supposed to be. But things are being pushed off from being allowed to be entered into the public domain for way too long. There's lots of things that should be public domain but are not. People should be allowed to draw Mickey Mouse and put it on their shit. People should be allowed to make Star Trek shows. People should be allowed to do anything they want to with Middle Earth. Hell, it's probably been long enough that Star Wars should be public domain by now. Instead, a lot of these things are owned, like especially the stuff owned by Disney. Disney has copyrights on Mickey Mouse that are supposed to extend several centuries into the future. Disney is insane to think that they're going to be around 300 years from now and are still going to need a copyright on Mickey fucking Mouse. Without any experimentation or previous examples really to go on, that this corporate entity is going to assume that it's going to last as long as some of the longer lasting human civilizations, just as a business that sells children's entertainment, not as a country or an empire or religious institution. And that's just nuts. I don't think our problems really have anything to do with big government or capitalism or communism or socialism. I think the thing that we really need to do to fix our world is mainly we just need to completely scrub our legal system. We have too many laws on the books. To me, that's the big government that I find concerning, and it's not the idea of the size of bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is variable. It depends on your population and the demands for whatever services. That those two factors will determine how big your bureaucracy is. The thing about the big government I'm concerned with is just the sheer amount of rules and laws about everything. Constantly. We don't do anything without writing it into law. We're constantly adding laws. We never remove them. There are more laws in the books than it is humanly possible for any one person to know and comprehend them all. That's going to lead us further down this path that we're already on of having machinery and programming and computers be the thing that's monitoring and regulating us. Terminators or the Matrix are never going to have to take over. The robots are not going to have a revolution. We're going to willingly cede power to them because we've designed a world too complex for ourselves to operate on our own without their help. Well, anyway, have a good morning. Oh, and hi, Mr. Okay, then now there we go.